Research shows black people have a significantly higher intake of synthetic food dyes. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the tackle?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A lot of tension in last night's game between the Dodgers and San Diego Padres. 4 players were hit by pitches, including Dodger star Shohei Ohtani, when home plate umpire Ryan Blakeney issued a warning to the Dodgers after Lou Trevino hit San Diego's Fernando Tatis in the 3rd inning. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts stormed onto the field to protest. The argument led to Roberts getting ejected for the first time this season. Roberts was upset that the Padres did not get a warning after Randy Vasquez hit Ohtani in the 2nd inning. By the time everybody cooled down, the Dodgers went home with an 8-6 win. The Angels shut out the Yankees for the 2nd night in a row. They cruised to a 4-0 win. Angels pitcher Kyle Hendricks had 9 strikeouts in 6 innings. The Yankees have lost 5 straight and have not scored in 29 innings. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
LA's newest soul food restaurant is getting spectacular reviews.
Great place with amazing food. The Sunday champagne brunch is fabulous. I saw the place on IG. We tried it for lunch. We were blown away by the food and the service. The restaurant has an inviting atmosphere and a dynamic vibe.
Over the years, Lionel has catered most major black events in Los Angeles, including all of our KBLA Talk 1580 gatherings. But now he has his own spot, Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine, and you need to check it out at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Oxtails, baked or fried chicken, meatloaf, turkey chops, pork chops, catfish, short ribs, and all the fixins. Collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, red beans, black-eyed peas, and more. And of course, hot water cornbread, satisfying drinks, and delicious desserts. Lionel's is a great place for brunch, lunch, or dinner. If it's good enough for us, it's good enough for you, because we've got your black. So, head on over to Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles and tell Lionel you heard about it on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, what a lovely, precious dream to be young, gifted, and light. Open your heart to what I mean. In the whole world, you know, there's a million boys and girls who are young, gifted, and bright, and that's a fact. You are young, gifted, and bright. We must begin to tell our young.
It's the best of Nina Simone, all 3 hours of our program today. June is Black Music Month, and every day on this program we choose a different artist whose catalog we tap into and share some of the best of the music they have produced, the music that is the soundtrack of our lives. And today it just felt appropriate, particularly given that first hour, and as you will hear in this hour as well, it felt appropriate that we would choose Nina Simone to be our featured artist of the day. Just courageous was Nina Simone in her lyrics, in her presentation, in her representation. We celebrate all these years later the rich musical legacy of Nina Simone. So she, again, is our featured artist today. We'll be hearing some of the best of her work all 3 hours of our program. What an amazing first hour that was with Maya Wiley. I'm going to take a little higher in this hour with Susan Sturm. She's Columbia Law Professor and founding director of the Center for Institutional and Social Change. And we now will go inside her new text. It's called What Might Be. What Might Be. Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. Something tells me that this first hour and second hour today are going to weave in rather nicely, given all the ways in which Maya Wiley set us up so beautifully in the first hour. For this hour, it's conversation with Professor Susan Sturm, who I'm honored to have on this program. Professor Sturm, thank you for coming on. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and I'm really thrilled to be there with you. And Maya Wiley is one of my heroes, and so I'm really pleased to follow her in your show.
No, it's a day of sheroes. We'll call them sheroes, not even heroes.
Thank you. That's even better.
No, we're honored to have you on, given your work and witness over the years, Professor Sturm. And again, Maya Wiley was our guest in the first hour. And I should mention that Maya's book, Remember You Are Wiley, her memoir we talked about in that first hour, is dedicated to another great shero, Lonnie Guinier. So Lonnie Guinier, Maya Wiley, Susan Sturm, I'm honored to be in the company of all these brilliant women. Lonnie Guinier was a dear friend of mine, and I miss her from time to time. I think about her and, again, her work and witness over the years. First black woman tenured at the Harvard Law School. It's a great day for women, and all things are possible when you set your mind to doing what needs to be done. And so we celebrate Lonnie Guinier. We celebrate Maya Wiley. We celebrate Professor Susan Sturm. Let me get right away into this conversation. I want to make the most of the hour that we have, and I'm glad we do, in fact, have an hour to delve into your new text, What Might Be Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. Let me start with this, if I might, an unlikely place, but I know you can handle it, and we'll work our way through this hour as it develops. But I wonder right now if I can ask you to give me a real-time assessment of our institutions. It's a big question. I'm giving you all the canvas you need to paint as you will. But before I again get into the book, just assess for me in real time what you make of our institutions in this country in the era of Donald Trump 2.0.
Our institutions are in crisis. Our institutions that we rely on to make decisions governing our lives, to make decisions governing our education, our political processes, our media. Our institutions are being challenged in ways that seem brand new and are really, certainly new in my lifetime. There's a threat to the capacity of everyday people to be heard, to have their voices heard, and to have these institutions serve their stated missions, whether it's an education institution, a political institution, a cultural institution, a business. And so I think we are at a point of crisis and pressure. And at the same time, I think there are institutions that we have to and can call upon to build the everyday courage and leadership of people who need to get engaged in a way that they haven't been, to be able to protect democratic practice in these institutions so that it gets translated to our political institutions, so that we can be ready when the tide turns and we have people at the top who actually really respect democracy. Our legal institutions are, as I talk about in the book, are contradictory. They are both very powerful forces to protect us, our commitment to the rule of law, and they are also part of the practices of racism that we are struggling to transform. Mm-hmm. So our institutions are in that state of paradox, in that state of contradiction. Yeah. And it's really going to be up to us, our everyday people who care about freedom, who care about each other, mm-hmm. To hold those contradictions and push our institutions towards the democratic practices that they claim to be all about. Yeah.
I said on this program yesterday, Professor Sturm, that to my mind, racism is still the most intractable issue in this country. And I say that even as I'm willing to acknowledge and admit that there seems to be an increase in our culture of anti-racism practices on the one hand, and yet on the other hand, I think it's clear that we are falling back, as you argue in your book, into a long-standing pattern of racial injustice and inequality. I don't know how to square those two things. And then again, I don't have to. You're the author, you're the expert, you're the guest. And when we come forward, I'm going to ask you to square those two things. How it is, on the one hand, that we can look at this multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic America, the most ever, and see signs of anti-racism practices. Yet at the same time, in this era of Donald Trump, we see the nation falling back into these patterns, again, of racial injustice and inequality. I'm delighted to have Susan Sturm as our guest in this hour. The new book is called What Might Be, Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. More with her when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
California to the Carolinas. Everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code PUSH to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PUSH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PUSH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
BET and PBS, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. You like that? This is Tavis Smiley.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in focus and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
Baby, you understand me now. If sometimes you see that I'm mad, don't you know no one alive can always be an angel? When everything goes wrong, you see some bad. But I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood.
It's the best of Nina Simone, all 3 hours of our program today here on Tavis Smiley, as we continue celebrating June as Black Music Month. Great choice today, I think. Nina Simone. So you're going to hear some of her best tracks as we move through all 3 hours of our program today. A great first hour with Maya Wiley, and another great hour underway right now with Susan Sturm, author of the new book, What Might Be, Confronting Racism to Transform. Excuse me. Let's try that again. Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. She is, of course, a Columbia Law professor and founding director of the Center for Institutional and Social Change. I'm delighted, honored, in fact, to have her on this program as we work our way inside her text. So I was saying a moment ago, Professor Sturm, that speaking of paradoxes, this is a paradox for me. No naivete here, but on the one hand, I could point to any number of things that suggest that anti-racism practices are alive and well. And on the other hand, I'm watching us go down the rabbit hole. I see the ways in which we're falling back into these old racist tropes, racial injustice and inequality on the rise. Donald Trump's attacks on DE&I and book bans and all the stuff that you know well. You're a professor. You teach this stuff every single day. How do we square? How do we juxtapose those two things? That again, there are encouraging signs that we can, in fact, one day really be a multiracial democracy, and on the other hand, as I said, we're going down the rabbit hole. What say you?
This is not new, and I'm not telling you something you don't already know. I mean, these contradictions, these paradoxes are built into the structure of our government. They were built into our Constitution, that we could be a country created in the name of democracy at the same time that the Constitution enshrined enslavement of people. And these contradictions, that we can be moving in the direction of genuine full participation, of genuine equity, at the same time that we're moving in the opposite direction, have recurred at every point in which we have made any kind of progress towards a racial democracy. And so I think what's really important for us to understand and lean into is that these contradictions are unavoidable in the world we live in, that the world is simultaneously one moving toward racial justice as we become a more multiracial democracy, as more white people understand that we too are directly affected by the practices and the power abuses that contribute to racism. And at the same time, that very direction prompts fear and resentment, and also permission when you have someone at the helm who is inviting that permission to speak aloud what we might have thought was widely viewed as unacceptable, namely even overt first generation racism, pure and simple. So what do we do when we are facing those contradictions? And we're facing them at a time where the federal government has declared that we should not even use the language of anti-racism, that we should not even use the language of diversity or equity or inclusion if we are recipients of federal funds. And so I think the one thing that's really important is to say we have to be able to sit with these uncomfortable, really difficult contradictions and ask the question, where are they coming from? What can we do to limit the conditions that create them? And how do we move forward with courage, with care, in a situation where we acknowledge that there are short-term risks in pushing forward with an agenda that keeps anti-racism on the table, but there are sizable, and I would suggest even more sizable risks if we don't continue to name a problem that, as you say, Tavis, is the fundamental fault line and real impediment to a democracy that will benefit everyone.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That we have to think about how do we ask the questions, who is and who is not thriving in our current reality? If you ask that question, you are going to confront issues of race right away because the data will show, the experience will show that many of the people who are not thriving are in fact Black and brown people in our country. And as my dear friend Lonnie Guinier would say, these folks are the miner's canary for ways in which many other people are not thriving. And this is a moment, I think, when people who care about freedom, people who care about democracy, people who care about just everyday humanity can see their linked fate because we are all threatened by the challenges to democratic practice, the challenges to academic freedom, the challenges to our ability to live in the world that I think many white folks have taken for granted and which we have never fully realized until up until this moment.
Yeah. Let me ask you point blank. I ask this in part because the more chronologically gifted I become, the older I get. I'm wrestling with this and noodling with this in interesting ways, I admit and acknowledge, live on the radio, heard across the country right now. But I'm thinking about a number of persons who just gave up on America. Just gave up. I'm thinking of the great W.B. Du Bois, first Black noted intellectual, first African-American receive a Ph.D. from Harvard, as we all know. But Du Bois eventually just gave up. He went to Accra, Ghana. I'm thinking of my friend Randall Robinson. I wish I'd known Du Bois. I'm thinking of Randall Robinson, who started Trans-Africa, who eventually just gave up and moved to St. Kitts. I'm thinking of James Baldwin, who in some ways gave up on America and went to France. Of course, he went back and forth, but went to Paris. A number of others I could name if I had the time. You know this stuff again as well as I do. And I offer that as a way into this simple but straightforward question, whether or not you believe that multiracial democracy is truly possible. I don't want to be Pollyannish about this, but again, as I get older, the more I'm wrestling with whether or not I believe multiracial democracy in this country is possible. I'm curious as to your take on that before I go forward.
It's such an important question. And what I would say, and it's interesting to think about another great leader, great thought leader and civil rights leader, Derek Bell.
Oh, yes.
Who left Harvard
That's right.
in protest for failing to hire more Black faculty. And that was a choice that was both a choice about protest and a choice potentially about giving up. Derek Bell talks about faces in the bottom of the well and the permanence of racism, as you know.
Yes.
And I think he questioned that decision at some point later in his life. And I understand, there's these choices between exit, voice, and loyalty. What do we do in the face of injustice? So, I talk about in the book this idea of taking small steps to build the world that we want to see more broadly, but in the world we live in day to day. So do I think multiracial democracy is possible at the level of communities, at the level of institutions, at the level of where we actually create our day-to-day interactions? I'd say the answer to that is yes. And I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in the midst of institutions that are not democratic, but that create the space for these, what Adrienne Marie Brown would call fractals, these micro spaces of justice, these micro spaces of everyday democracy. And I think I not only believe in those spaces, I have had the privilege of being part of those spaces, and I think they can build on each other. And that is how democratic movements develop, is when people build those spaces where they have the power to do so against the odds, often with few resources. Do I believe that those spaces will ever get to the point where they transform the institutions that we name, our legislative branches, our executive branches, our government at the national level. I would call myself someone who will never give up hope, but also I wouldn't call myself an optimist.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that we have to zoom into those spaces where we build that everyday multiracial democracy that we can build. That happens when we come together around our understanding that our future depends on it, our ability to have a future for our children that we would want to bring them into depends upon us being the ones who say, we are going to create an educational institution that allows everybody to participate. We are going to share resources in ways that support people, even when right now we're not getting those resources from the branches of government that should be providing them. We are going to come together to build and push for that multiracial democracy at the city level, at the state level, and then at the federal level. And it's only by having that continued hope, even if we are skeptical about whether it will happen in our lifetime, that it can happen in our lifetime. So those of us who are not going to leave, those of us who are going to stay against the odds and build at the local level what we can build at the state level and find ways to connect, which shows like yours, Tavis, are really part of enabling us to find each other and to do this work, that's how it would become possible, even if it is not something we can count on, even if it's not something that we can bank on. And, you know, I cannot desert my community or leave out of a sense of futility, just because I think that we have to keep pushing, and there are enough people. They might not be the most visible ones, but they're the ones on the ground doing the work. There are enough people who can come together that if we can come together and elevate people's voices, that I think there is an understanding that's growing that we have to make these kinds of changes for the sake of our democracy, for the sake of our planet. And that provides us an opening that maybe we haven't had before.
I asked that question about whether or not Professor Sturm thinks that multiracial democracy is possible because her book is called What Might Be. That's the name of the book, What Might Be, Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. I'm honored to have her on this program. When we come forward, I want to ask her straight away how institutions and communities, she's referenced both already in this conversation, how can institutions and communities address anti-racism in a moment where the leader of this country is coddling white supremacists? I mentioned earlier, I see ways in which we're going down the rabbit hole when it comes to racial injustice and inequality once again in this country. But here she is with this book calling for institutions and communities to address anti-racism. I'm not sure I know how we do that in this particular moment where the president and frankly, corporate America and other institutions are looking the other way. How is that possible? We'll start there and jump from there when we come forward in this hour with Susan Sturm, the book once again, What Might Be, Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. I'm delighted to have her on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
I'm Tammy Eswick with BIN News Now. We're following breaking news. Hurricane Eric has formed in the eastern Pacific. According to the National Hurricane Center, it's expected to intensify before making landfall on the southern Mexican coast by tonight and could turn into a major hurricane. The concern in the United States is that the storm could reach the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, turning into a massive hurricane. More than half of the black population lives in the southern part of the United States. Delayed in the Sean Combs sex trafficking case, reports Reports say a juror is sick with vertigo. Vertigo feels like the world is spinning around you. It comes as a black juror was dismissed earlier this week after he couldn't answer a question about where he lived. He was replaced with a white juror. Tyler Perry's lawyer commenting on the sexual harassment lawsuit he's facing, saying, "We are confident these fabricated claims of harassment will fail." Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the tether? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A lot of tension in last night's game between the Dodgers and San Diego Padres. 4 players were hit by pitches, including Dodger star Shohei Ohtani, when home plate umpire Ryan Blakeney issued a warning to the Dodgers after Lou Trevino hit San Diego's Fernando Tatis in the 3rd inning. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts stormed onto the field to protest. The argument led to Roberts getting ejected for the first time this season. Roberts was upset that the Padres did not get a warning after Randy Vasquez hit Ohtani in the 2nd inning. By the time everybody cooled down, the Dodgers went home with an 8-6 win. The Angels shut out the Yankees for the 2nd night in a row. They cruised to a 4-0 win. Angels pitcher Kyle Hendricks had 9 strikeouts in 6 innings. The Yankees have lost 5 straight and have not scored in 29 innings. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this. Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There'll be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
skip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is Resilience in the Face of Chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
We love you. Love you.
More honesty than you can handle.
More empowerment than you can imagine.
You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Oh, Cinnamon, where you gonna run to? Cinnamon, where you gonna run to? Where you gonna run to? All on that day, will I run to the rock? Please hide me and run to the rock. Please hide me and run to the rock. Please hide me, Lord, all on that day. But the rock cried out, I can't hide you, the rock cried out. I can't hide you, the rock cried out. I ain't gonna hide you down, all on that day. I said, rock, what's the matter with you?
I'm Tavis Smiley. That, of course, is Nina Simone. We're playing the best of Nina Simone all 3 hours of our program today. We continue our celebration of June as Black Music Month, and it's our great joy, our honor, in fact. Every day in the month of June, we do this every year. We choose a different artist of the day in the month of June, and we tap into their catalog and bring you some of the best of their grand contributions, none greater than Nina Simone, and it just seemed an appropriate choice for today, given that we started today's program with Maya Wiley and her powerful memoir in the first hour, and delighted to have in this hour Columbia Law Professor Susan Sturm. Her new book is called What Might Be, Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. The book is dedicated to her dear friend and sister, now departed Lonnie Guinier, referenced earlier in this conversation. Susan Sturm, just a little funny footnote. You can't see me because this is radio, and I can't see you, but I have a colleague who happens to be in the building right now. He hosts a program on my home station in Los Angeles. This program that you're on right now is syndicated across the country. You heard in markets everywhere. But he hosts a program on my station here in L.A., and he happens to be in L.A. today. He's usually not in L.A., but he's actually in L.A. today. We have a huge event that we're recording live for C-SPAN tonight, Wednesday. It will air on C-SPAN tomorrow night, but we're recording it live tonight. So just know that Cornell West is sitting in studio looking at me and listening to you, Professor Sturm, right about now.
Oh, I know. I heard Lonnie speak with great love and admiration for Cornell West, and with very good reason. That's really an honor.
No, we are honored to.
Susan, I send my deep respect for her work.
Could you hear that, Susan?
I couldn't hear
hold
that.
on a second. Yeah.
I just send my deep respect for your work and witness, my dear sister, over the years, and with our dear sister Lonnie Guinier, the one and only sister Lonnie Guinier. But I salute you.
Back at you. Back at you.
No. I just wanted to mention that he's here and just listening. As is the audience across the country. Again, the book is called What Might Be, Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. So I was asking before the break, Professor Sturm, how it is that institutions and communities, as you are calling for, as you are laying out an agenda for them to undertake anti-racism work. How does that happen in a moment like this, when literally the leader of our country is coddling and pardoning white supremacists?
it's tempting to say, let me just get into bed and pull the covers over my head
Yeah.
because it's not possible. I understand that feeling. And I can't say that I never have those feelings myself. Um, but that's what's being hoped for by those who are trying to really turn the clock back, not just to before the Civil Rights Revolution, but I think um, to the period when Reconstruction was undermined and retracted. So, like, I think the first thing is just to say that what might be, it could go in either direction if you think about it. What might be if we push for this kind of change, continue to push under conditions that are more challenging, and what will happen if we don't. And I think we are in a time when we say what might be feels a lot more ominous at this moment than it maybe has in any time of my lifetime. So what's possible? You're saying, well, how can we go forward with addressing racism and confronting racism when we are being threatened with even naming that as an agenda? And I do think it's important for people to care for themselves. So I'm not suggesting just, throw all concern about your own well-being and safety to the wind. But I think there are ways and ways we can learn from people who have faced this in the past, not under these exact circumstances. But take, for example, Freeman Hrabowski, who was the president of University of Maryland, Baltimore County for over 25 years, and who is someone who's on the front lines now pushing to continue to make colleges and universities, and particularly in the sciences, math, technology, and engineering, but more generally, equitable and in fully what I call full participation sites and settings where people, whatever their race, their gender, their background, their occupation, can enter, thrive, succeed, and contribute to the thriving of others. So what he faced was he started out targeting programs for Black boys who were not succeeding in the sciences, but he said and clearly believed that if they were not succeeding, it was not because of their failing, but because of the failing of the institution. So he examined the way they were being taught and the way everyone was being taught science. And he learned that they were being taught in a way that was set up for people to fail, was counting on people failing, and not only Black boys, but everybody. And he created a program that enabled people to basically learn and succeed and thrive in the sciences, and that dealt with the barriers to success that were connected to history of racialized exclusion. And guess what? Black boys and then Black girls thrived in this new program and started to become the people who, in a mediocre white institution, which everyone agreed was what UMBC was at the time, became the cutting edge of change. Then the court stepped in and said, you can't do this anymore. You can no longer name race as the basis for your program. What did he do? Did he fold up and go home and stop? No. What he did was he asked the question, what is it about what we're doing to advance full participation of Black and brown people that would benefit other people in the institution? And what is it that is particular to the experience of people who've been marginalized in the past that we have to continue to attend to? And he created these micro spaces of justice all around University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And he identified people, I call them organizational catalysts, but these are people who reach across the aisle. These are people who are committed to everyone's success and thriving, and know how to speak in ways that navigate this paradox that we have to both not talk about race,
Right.
because if we do, we will exclude people who need to be at the table to make these changes.
Yeah.
but we also have to talk about race. We have to do both of those things at the same time.
Yeah.
That is a contradiction.
Yeah.
And he figured out how to be able to do that by pushing forward on a theme of full participation, which is a theme that everyone can come together around.
Sure.
But that requires you to continue to ask questions that are explicitly about race and about racism.
Yeah. So Freeman Hrabowski, who I have been honored to know over the course of my career, and we spent some good time together over the years, is a great example. And his work, of course, is detailed in your book, and you've just explained to the audience now why you were so fascinated by his work as to include him in the new book. What might be the flip side of that I want to get to when we come forward, and that is given your decades of experience researching and working with institutions to help them become more equitable and inclusive, how that happens in a moment where they don't care about being more equitable and inclusive. That's the moment that we're in. All of these companies, from Walmart to McDonald's to Target, we could run the list all day long if we had the time, of companies who in this moment are looking the other way because government is looking the other way, and that's how it works. When government looks the other way, so does corporate America. So what does it mean that we're in this moment where people don't care? Institutions, corporations don't care about being more equitable and more inclusive, but that's what you've been doing for a long time now, so you're the best person to put that question to, and I will, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for for you.
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. At work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text EQUAL to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text EQUAL to 321-321. That's EQUAL to 321-321.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Susan Sturm, a Columbia Law professor, founding director of the Center for Institutional and Social Change. We've been going inside of her new text. It's called What Might Be, Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions. What happens in a moment like this, Professor Sturm, when those institutions don't care about being more equitable, when they don't care about being inclusive, indeed, when they are rewarded for not doing anti-racism work?
It's interesting. I think one of the reasons that I feel continued energy around mobilizing is that I've never really thought that predominantly white institutions in our country mostly deeply cared about these issues. There was a move of kind of cosmetic change, window dressing, going along with the flow. And yes, we've moved in a direction where up until very recently, we would say it's unacceptable to be overtly racist. So in one sense, we're confronted with the bald-faced reality of the way most institutions have always operated, which is that this has never been a core priority.
Yeah.
It's often been something that is done as the fourth most important thing on a list, and we only really do the top three. So I think one reason why I don't feel like, oh my goodness, we're going to give up is that we've always been fighting and moving forward in the face of institutions for which really promoting equity has never been embraced as something that's in their long-term interest, even though it is.
Yeah.
So then what can we do in a situation where at this particular moment, that reality has been named as something desirable by the highest levels of government? And that is different than it's been for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And I think that I think it's really important for us to say, to differentiate among institutions. There are institutions that do care.
Right.
They may not be the ones that have the most power, but there are institutions that do care and that have really prioritized building genuine, democratic, fully participatory spaces.
Yeah.
They could be schools, they could be nonprofit organizations, they could be historically Black colleges and universities, they could be religious institutions that are doing that. And part of the reason I name that is to say that we have to find the places that will provide support and care and concern and step in and build this kind of will and mobilization under the radar screen when needed, but then coming out more openly when the opportunity presents itself or when that's really required, so that, number one, everyday people take responsibility for addressing the harms to people who are really going to be hurt by the current situation, but also we continue to build the culture that can become more mainstream when the tide shifts.
So speaking of when the tide shifts, I want to ask. That's exactly where I want to go in this in our remaining moments with Professor Sturm. What and how can institutions that do care, to her point, foster environments for anti-racism efforts? That's our exit question when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LAC-JCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park,
Los Angeles, California.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Susan Sturm, Columbia Law Professor, founding director of the Center for Institutional and Social Change, author of the new book, What Might Be. And I'm delighted to have had her on this program in this hour. I've got 2.5 minutes, Professor, very tight 2.5. I'm going to give it to you to close with that extra question that I teed up a moment ago, which is for those institutions that do care, for those corporations, those companies that do care, how do they go about in this moment fostering environments for anti-racism efforts?
One really important step is to identify these people who are bridge builders, who are dream weavers, and give them a platform, give them resources to be able to build community within and also across their institutions and organizations. People like my students who have gone out to Harlem and to Queens and built among Gen Zers and among people who are disengaged from the political process an understanding of what they can do, at least at the local level, to get involved. And that why it's so important to do that in a way that brings people together across race, across class, across generation, and across difference. Creating those platforms, honoring it, valuing it, and then equipping those people to connect with each other across communities and across institutions. That's something that many institutions have the opportunity to do, and people in those institutions can find, what is my role? Am I a connector? Am I a disruptor? Am I a dream weaver? And who can I connect to and who do I need to connect to if I care deeply about the community that I'm in and the connection between that community and what we are facing as a larger nation? That will enable us to hold these contradictions that are built into addressing racism and to have the joy of the relationships that happen when people actually push for change and in the process live the values of caring and supporting each other across racial lines.
The book is called What Might Be, Confronting Racism to Transform Our Institutions, authored by Columbia Law professor and, again, founding director of the Center for Institutional and Social Change, if I can say it. Let's try that again, Tavis, founding director of the Center for Institutional and Social Change at Columbia. Professor Sturm, congrats on the book, and honor to have had you on this program. Thank you for your insights and your time.
Thank you so much, Tavis, and thank you for what you do.
It's good to have you on this program. Thank you. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tammy Eswick with BIN News Now. We're following breaking news. Hurricane Eric has formed in the eastern Pacific. According to the National Hurricane Center, it's expected to intensify before making landfall on the southern Mexican coast by tonight and could turn into a major hurricane. The concern in the United States is that the storm could reach the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, turning into a massive hurricane. More than half of the black population lives in the southern part of the United States. Delayed in the Sean Combs sex trafficking case, reports say a juror is sick with vertigo. Vertigo feels like the world is spinning around you. It comes as a black juror was dismissed earlier this week after he couldn't answer a question about where he lived. He was replaced with a white juror. Fowler Perry's lawyer commenting on the sexual harassment lawsuit he's facing, saying, "We are confident these fabricated claims of harassment will fail." Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA